Tristan Tolino, and I'm here with the rest of the Global Roundtable Leadership team. And we've been doing a series of conversations around these times and the way that we feel that we are made for these times, and that with all that is swirling around us, that we want to stand for our shared humanity and for the opportunity that we have to be together in another way. And like all of you, we're seeing so many different stories and strategies and things coming across our computers, our phones, through networks, some of which is very much in the wheelhouse of Global Roundtable Leadership, as we spend a lot of our time thinking about how we work together in ensembles and teams and groups and organizations. And so we had a particular article that came across the bow recently that was from CNN Business on how to manage a team remotely during this crisis, and it sparked us. And so we thought we would have a moment or two of sharing our conversation with all of you as we react to a few facets of the article.
And
with that, and respond, and thank you. And with that, we have, I think Kate has something to start us off with.
I do. So we're just going to start with the number one suggestion that this particular article recommends, and it's titled "Reassessing Priorities and Offer Clear Direction." And it has a couple points in there about taking some initiative and asking the higher ups what you could do, and getting clarity so the whole team gets clarity, and then talking a little bit about leaders making sure the resources are available. All, real good business sense, etc. And that said, in a shared leadership model, I would love for everyone to sort of talk about what resonates there, and what add-ons would you have from a real shared leadership framework perspective. And I know for me, the first one was, everybody gets to sort of look at the resources and ask questions. And I think even in our framework of the ensemble, making an offer. So as you are at home and you're thinking about all the work that has to get done with everything else that's going on, how do you prioritize it and make an offer to the team from your perspective of what I see and what you can do now, would be my opening volley to our conversation.
I think one of the first things that jumps out to me is the idea of responsibility in shared leadership, and how each person in the team is 100% responsible for how they show up. And I was thinking of, and Lori, I think you could talk a little bit more probably about I can't remember exactly how to frame the, two people, like how you're responsible for the two different people. So for me, I'm thinking about, just like Kate saying, if I feel something's coming up, or I'm not clear on something, or I want to have a conversation, I shouldn't just sit back and wait for someone else to reach out to me or to schedule that or to tell me what the priorities are. And instead, if I'm unclear, I can reach out and say, can we have a conversation? Or would you mind if we had a meeting? Or, this seems like something that could help our team. Can we go ahead and make that happen? And so it's feeling that responsibility of not just waiting for the clarity to come down, to kind of trickle down to you, but to acknowledge that, I might not be clear. Let me reach out and see if I can gain that, or I can share my own perspective on what I think we might want to focus on or how we could improve things. And so I think that's a huge difference, in the shared leadership model versus the kind of top-down, trickle-down approach of, I'll just kind of sit back and do nothing until I'm told what to do, which is really can feel comforting at first or secure, but in actuality, it's not great for anybody in the organization to be sitting back like that.
Ooh. Yes, please. Thank you, Travis. And I'll step in here. And so first of all, Travis, what you are naming is in this work of sharing leadership, sharing power, and shifting the culture from out of positional power into how we lead relationally together. That between us, if it's you and me, we each are 50% responsible for our relationship. And within that, I'm 100% responsible for my part. and you're 100% responsible for your part, but we're each 50% responsible, like that each of us have an equal percentage of responsibility to how we show up. And saying like, oh, that's not my job, phew, that's theirs, like is not the way in all of us stewarding the culture together in a shared leadership framework. And I want to name one other quickie, and that is how often, and I'm so appreciative of the author of this article for coming up with some of these really good points for managers. But I think I'm hearing a lot of stories of managers who feel they have to like overmanage, like be hyper managing right now. And I want to say, please, just the opposite is true. This is where the imposter syndrome can also grab us, and scarcity thinking can grab us here. And turn to your team. Remind your team of your values that sit in the middle of all of you together, and empower your team. Ask your team to lead together. Ask them for their opinions and how they want to show up. And it's a time to empower your team and not feel you have to give them busy work to keep them from freaking out. I'm hearing crazy stories about how reductive we're being with the genius of our teams. And so trust your team, ask your team how you want to work during these times, and name your values and place those in the middle of you, all together equally around the circle of those values.
Gonna step in real quick and say, and add meaning, right? So the idea of doing busy work right now is heartbreaking. Do meaningful work, do connective work, do amazing work in the right amounts. But oh my gosh, don't keep busy just for busy's sake. That's one of the things we're curing right now, I think. Yeah.
I wanted to comment about like the foundations of all these things. Yes, a lot of overwork, and people are covering with just let's get more work to avoid facing the reality of the anxiety that we're feeling. I think that one of the really positive aspects that we shared with shared leadership is that the leader has to be able to show vulnerability and to share that vulnerability as equals. I think that opens up a very different tone, a more humane tone, and also the importance of checking in as human beings. It's okay to express that we're afraid and that we're feeling anxious, and that honesty and vulnerability, I think it makes us stronger as teams.
Yes, and Sebastian, you know, vulnerability is mentioned at the end of this article as the leader, and I think we would maybe say bring that up. If there's anything to bring up to the top, bring that vulnerability up there, and start with that. Lead with that. Mm-hmm. Model being the example, and fun and playful, you know, openings and of meetings and everything is so important to be able to play and joke at this time, but also don't be afraid to say, how are you feeling? Like what, you know, in a way that could bring up the fear. And again, start that by leading with that vulnerability. Thank you for that, Sebastian. Gets me so excited.
Yeah, and I love what Sebastian's saying too about the vulnerability and checking in with your team and saying, how are you today? And how are you feeling? And just having each other's back and saying, do you need any help with anything? And just having compassion and nurturing each other, and definitely having fun and having laughter is so key to, you know, your wellness and everyone's wellness of the team.
Which is exactly what you did today when you opened our meeting this afternoon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will offer maybe in closing one final piece, which prior to this recording and our chance to have this conversation with all of you, we were talking about a piece of work that we did that we call our manifesto. And that is available at our website at globalroundtableleadership.com. And you can see sort of the larger manifesto there. But I just wanted to read the very end of it. It's a part of our language that we use fairly often, which is that together we know more than any of us do on our own. So we face great challenges and great goodness together in unity, in strength, and in shared power. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay soft.
Be well.
Stay real. Be well.
Mm.